me also on the broadcast is Major Mohammed Ali Shah. You know, it's of concern, particularly alarming, the fact that there is a suicide bomber who has been appointed by ISIS. This is a man that has been recruited from Turkey. There is an attack that has been plotted against an Indian national elite. And thankfully, the Russian Federation has come forth thwarting this attack. The ISIS is the culprit in this entire scheme of things.
What is the question, Megha?
I want to understand this entire nexus that was at one point of time and is even now being built, with China taking control of things, Turkey, Pakistan, and Russia also at this point of time building this sort of a bloc. It clearly negates the kind of rumors, first of all, that come forth from the Western world, that there is a bloc which Russia is aligned to when it comes to China, because there are allegiances and traditional partners that India and Russia are, and therefore Russia are looking out for India and India interest here.
Well, Megha, this is a very, very alarming, very, very concerning news which has come in. The Russian Federal Security Service Bureau, that's the FSB, I commend them. They've been alert in catching this guy and nabbing him. And
yes, in fact, even as you talk about this man, this terrorist, this suicide bomber, those are first pictures of this man that are flashing on our screens. So again, the little information that we have, Major Mohammed Ali Shah, that he was a suicide bomber, was recruited by ISIS, was picked up from Turkey, and this well thought out attack has been thwarted, thankfully, by the Russian Federal Security Service.
Absolutely, yes, Megha. And you know, luckily of the 1976 UAPA, that's the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which also gives, which we work in tandem with other nations as well. So it would be treated as UAPA, which need not be terrorist activity, which can be any unlawful activity. But there's a serious terrorist activity plotting against an Indian elite. Oh my goodness, it is actually very, very alarming. Now, the suicide bomber was picked up by Turkey, trained, and just when he could have been planning this execution of his attack. That's when the FSB has caught him. So yes, there's a big, strong nexus. We have to understand. In fact, the ISIS, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, they've been plotting against India for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I can't you know, emphasize the fact more, Major Mohammed Ali Shah, that just a couple of days ago, it was NSA Ajit Doval who was in Russia, who was in Moscow. He was meeting his counterpart from Russia about how it is of importance for both the nations to build further this mutual cooperation when it comes to security, when it comes to arms, and when it comes to other trade associations that both nations have had for decades together. And in wake of all these big dignitary delegation meetings, there is this news of a suicide attack, suicide plot that was being built by the ISIS.
Absolutely, Megha, bang on, and it is really, really concerning and alarming. Just, in fact, our NSA was there. Very, very important man for our Indian government. And look at this, I mean, just then now this news comes in, that to a country which is already at war. There you find the activity of ISIS sneaking in and they planning to execute an attack. It is actually very, very concerning. But let me tell you, the root cause again is, you know, ultimately the epicenter of all terrorism is Pakistan, Megha. Pakistan harbors suicide bombers. They are specialists in that. I fought insurgency in Jammu Kashmir where we dealt with people who crossed over from Pakistan. I fought insurgency in Northeast. Northeast, I didn't come across a single suicide bomber in 3 years of my service there, with the army and the paramilitary, with the Assam Rifles as well. Never. But in Jammu Kashmir, a suicide bomber was very, very frequent. Fidain, they would call them. So it is actually concerning and alarming, and also it shows also one more thing: India's relationship with other nations, with Russia for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Major Mohammed Ali Shah, this is a concerning, alarming news. We had at one point of time rested on our laurels that there has been enough action that has been taken against ISIS, with the crackdown that had been taking place globally against the terrorist organization, but with these new tentacles arising out of the Middle East, in the Eastern European region, Turkey, where there is collusion that has been talked about. It's a concerning information, it's a concerning development of China, Turkey and Pakistan building this nexus. What more can be done to thwart it?
Absolutely, Megha. You know, this is a very, very alarming and a very disturbing development of China, Turkey, Pakistan plotting and actually catering for these terrorists, and who would be taking action against India. Now, what can be done? Well, Megha, we are already at it, but yes, diplomatic talks, building relationship. But again, when we try to build a relationship with Pakistan, for example, it never works. When we try to have talks with Pakistan, with China, it never works. 16 rounds of military talks with China. When that hasn't worked at the border, when you are face to face, how can you expect other talks? Erdogan, who does not like India. So these talks are not really working. But now what should say Russia? Their agencies, they caught this guy, they nabbed this guy. It also speaks of our good relationships with Russia. Because Russia was concerned for us, they reported this guy. So what can be done? Only strengthening the relationship with the diplomatic ties and the ideology, Megha. You know, you shoot one guy, you kill one guy, unfortunately 10 heads will be born thereafter. We killed Osama bin Laden. Well, I will not say the US killed Osama bin Laden 10 years after his famous 9/11 attacks. But then again, there was somebody to take over and then take over. The ideology has to be wiped out. This ideology of this Islamic State, I mean, this is like really bunkum. This is something which has to be called out. This is something which the Islamic nations, if they are genuinely Islamic, they should come forward and they should call the shots. They should tell, they should rebuke these organizations. Pakistan, which claims to be a very holy and a very pious and a very Islamic nation, which it is not, which caters to terrorism and such barbaric activities. I mean, if they are genuinely believers of Islam, they should not. I would say that state is the actual, the enemy, the true enemy of Islam globally. So when the ideology is nipped thereafter it stops growing. Now how do we, it's very difficult, very, very challenging to get the ideology cut completely. Now, Imran Khan, he should come forward. I mean, he has followed out of favors from the military with the terrorists in Pakistan. Khalil had got him into power. The military had got him into power. He's fallen out. So these people who self-proclaim leaders, in fact, even leaders, they should come forward and they should talk. They should actually debunk these kind of activities which Islamic terror has been providing.
Absolutely. But you know, there are a lot of questions that come to mind. That why was this trajectory that was built by ISIS to first train this individual, recruit him in Turkey, indoctrinate him, and then send him to Russia, of all the places in the world, thereby allowing for him to again inconspicuously fly into India and target this Indian elite that the Russian Security Federation is talking about. So it's interesting to note that the three nations, the switch is taking place, and it's not directly from Pakistan, it is not from Afghanistan, but this is all brewing in Turkey. It started off from Turkey.
Absolutely, Megha. It is indeed very, very alarming. One is the Pakistani terror, that they are sending the terrorists and to cross over on the border and they come over, which we know of it and for which our security forces are there to take care of. Now, when we find an ISIS terrorist in Russia planning to come into India, it is indeed very, very disturbing, because if they can do that, they can go to any extent, which means they can really go to any extent, and that actually calls for danger in bold letters. So now it is disturbing, and this, when he was planning to target the elite, which obviously means that the elite, the Indian elite, is in the hit list for some reason, for whatever reason it is.
In fact, the allegation, the confession that has come forth from this detained individual, the terrorist, the suicide bomber, he goes about saying that he wanted to take revenge on India, and that was his primary reason for targeting an Indian elite, wanting to fly from Turkey, being indoctrinated, being trained, and then sent to Russia, and from Russia decided to fly into India, but fortunately was caught by the Russian security forces.
Yeah, absolutely, Megha, you know, and I would call them actually slightly brainless. What kind of geography they use, I don't understand. What kind of planning they had. I mean, if they go with such real, if I use a word, I don't know, I don't want to use a word actually. If they go with that silly planning of theirs, they will meet their own doomsday the way Pakistan is meeting their own doomsday. Slowly, gradually.
Absolutely. Thank you, Major Mohammed Ali Shah, for sharing your views on this.